Hello, my name is David Hart. As the CEO of the Bermuda Business Development Agency, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the BDA's Bermuda Climate Webinar, a precursor to our inaugural Bermuda Climate Summit on May 24th. Situated in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, environmental protection and innovative solutions have always been part of Bermuda's DNA. From the passing of legislation to protect sea turtles in 1620, to the Bermuda Institute of Ocean Sciences establishing the longest-running continuous ocean study in the world in 1954, Bermuda has always made conservation central to its way of life. Bermuda continues to adapt and provide solutions to complex risks. From launching the first modern captive insurer 60 years ago, to BIOS's climate scientists and reinsurers collaborating to establish the Risk Prediction Initiative in 1994. With today's frequent wildfires, floods, and storms, climate risk continues to be one of the world's greatest threats. And now, Bermuda is taking its innovation, expertise, and conservation history and establishing itself as a world capital for climate risk finance. With its collaborative ecosystem, Bermuda is joining forces to find solutions to climate risk. Not only is our forward-looking regulator, the Bermuda Monetary Authority, pivoting to an increased focus on climate risk matters, our government has put ESG considerations to the forefront and is collaborating with our international business hub to develop new renewable technology on the jurisdiction. Bermuda is paving the way to address climate risk both on the island and in the international markets we serve. As an important conduit between the government and the private sector, the BDA can help your environmentally focused ideas succeed in our blue chip jurisdiction. So whether you're a startup looking to beta test new climate technology, or you're an established business looking to expand in a transparent and compliant environment, the BDA is ready to assist you on your journey. It is now my pleasure to welcome the Premier of Bermuda, the Honorable David Burt, as he joins me to discuss Bermuda's commitment to climate risks, the jurisdiction's innovative technology, and why Bermuda is the perfect platform to be the world's climate risk capital. Our conversation with Premier Burt will be followed by an all-star panel of climate risk experts from different fields, moderated by our very own BDA Chair, Stephen Weinstein. We are excited to have you here to join our virtual Bermuda Climate Webinar and the engaging, thoughtful conversations that will come out of this event. And we look forward to continuing the climate discussion further at our in-person Bermuda Climate Summit on May 24th. Thank you to our partners, the Association of Bermuda Insurers and Reinsurers, and KBRA, as well as our platinum sponsor, Conduit Re, silver sponsor, Aspen, and supporting sponsor, KPMG. On behalf of the entire team, once again, welcome and enjoy the webinar.
Bermuda. When we call ourselves the center of it all, we don't just mean business and finance. We're also the center of environmental stewardship. In fact, you might want to call us Conservation Central. We were the first in the New World to recognize that our environment needed protection. Our land, our sea, our air, land, our sea, our air are at the center of what makes Bermuda a spectacular place for business, as well as the embodiment of the ideal live, work, play lifestyle. And we're only just getting started. Innovation has always been a part of our DNA, and that includes being leaders in climate risk mitigation before the rest of the world caught on. Be at the center of it all and connect with us to find the right solution for your business.
Premier Burt, thank you for being with our audience of climate risk specialists from around the globe today. Let's set the table for our discussion. Would you tell us why climate risk finance is a priority for Bermuda's government?
I think the most important thing is that Bermuda knows and understands what climate risk can mean to us. As an island nation, it is certainly something that we must be aware of. And that is the reason why in Earth Day in 2021, we made the declaration that we are going to do our part to make sure that we commit to the reduction of our emissions. But I think what's also important to recognize is that from the perspective of Bermuda and Bermuda's economy, as leader of the government, we have been firmly committed towards economic diversification. And a lot of that is building on what you do well. Climate risk is just a part of risk, and Bermuda is the world's risk capital. So we cannot think of any better place for climate risk to be centered, given that all of our insurance companies have compiled so much data regarding climate risk, ocean temperatures, all the things that affect the way that climate will deal with the world. And for us, we believe that we are uniquely positioned, have the knowledge and expertise to be able to judge those risks, manage those risks, and to make sure that we provide the correct and best avenue to finance those risks in the future.
Thank you, Premier Burt. Following up on those comments, you'll certainly recall that the BDA, my chair, our deputy chair, and I led a mission to Glasgow to COP26 and supported the government's mission to be at COP26 with Deputy Premier Robin. While we were there, we met with everything from asset allocators to heads of NGOs to global leaders from around the world, as well as tech leaders, to talk about the Bermuda platform and tell the Bermuda story. To your mind, why was that mission important for Bermuda?
I think what's important about that is that as a small island state and as the leader of the overseas territories of the United Kingdom, we have to show and demonstrate leadership. And a lot of times people do not know what we do in Bermuda and what we are capable of doing in Bermuda. And therefore, to make sure we went to Glasgow to represent the overseas territories, but to talk about our existing leadership when it comes to managing climate, and also speaking about where we want to become a future leader insofar as climate risk. Those things are important. I know that there were meetings that took place in Glasgow. I know there were follow-up meetings which took place in London, which were sponsored by our London office. And it's important that we continue to tell that story so that persons know and recognize that climate risk financing is a real thing. All the commitments that came out of the climate change conference, of course, mean nothing if we cannot finance these risks, if we cannot finance the measures which are necessary to mitigate the impacts of the climate change that we know is going to happen. And we believe that Bermuda is going to be that excellent place in which to do that. We always love to say that Bermuda is an excellent place to raise capital, but a terrible place to hide it. And when we're talking about the need to raise capital to combat climate risk, we believe that we're going to be able to play a pivotal role in where that goes forward in carrying out those commitments which were arrived at the climate change conference.
Thank you, Premier. So you mentioned Bermuda being a leader in that space. Clearly there are other jurisdictions on the planet that have similar, perhaps similar aspirations. Why is Bermuda the perfect place for to be that leader for the world?
Certainly, other places may have aspirations, but it'll be difficult for other places to match the expertise of which we have. Right here, sitting inside of the city of Hamilton, you can look outside the windows and note that you can see and understand the insurance companies that are very near to this location. And in the city of Hamilton, we have a concentration of intellectual capital that knows climate risk better than anyone. We've been writing this, we've been doing this for a very long time. We understand the impacts that weather and other aspects will have. We've been insuring risk as the world's risk capital, paying out billions of dollars on an annual basis to cover out all these climate events which we've seen recently. And so from our perspective, it makes sense we know how to manage and write that risk, but we also know and anticipate what may be coming. And if we can combine how we do insurance with how we actually finance climate risk, we can also reduce the amount of exposure that our insurance companies will have to pay for in the future. So I think from that perspective, it is a unique blend which we have here, which I don't believe that you'll be able to find anywhere else. You're not going to find it other places because we understand its impact, but we've also made a living by innovating in offering these risk solutions to the world. And that's why I think we're the ideal place.
Premier, innovation was actually going to be my next question of you. You're a bit of a rare breed for an elected official in that your background, both education and profession and passion, is in the technology space. So tell our audience a little bit about how innovation in Bermuda can help Bermuda be that climate risk leader for the planet.
Well, certainly from the innovation perspective, that is something that we have to make sure that we continue. It's in our ethos. Bermuda has had to be innovative to survive since settling in Bermuda way back in 1609. And so if you're not innovating in Bermuda, then you are not going to survive. And that is the mantra of which my government has continued to preach. And that is what we're going to continue to make sure we advance innovation on all fronts and all aspects. But I think what's also important is that Bermuda is very strange. If we want to look at what is our calling card, it will be very weird for you to say that, our strength is regulation. But the truth is, Bermuda's strength is regulation. That's why we have these insurance companies here, because they're able to offer products and services and get them to market faster than they can in other places around the world. And we're trying to build on what we do in regulation and being innovative in regulation to other sectors. One of the main things which we're doing right now as part of our economic recovery plan is that we have an energy regulatory sandbox, which allows new technologies in order to be tested here in a regulated environment to see if they can work in other spaces. One of our first projects in that is wave energy, something that people have been speaking about for a long time, but we are actually pioneering in saying, look at how wave energy can work. Look at how wave energy can actually function inside of a regulated environment. And so with a combination of not only financing climate risk, but also being a place where you can test renewable energy, test these products and services and innovations, which will help to meet the targets of the climate change conference we think are very important. And that's something that we're very excited about. It's a very expensive energy market here in Bermuda, certainly, but if we're able to demonstrate our leadership in renewable energy and to attract companies that want to come and demonstrate their products here, then we believe that it's a perfect win for locals and our residents, certainly, but also win for the world.
Outstanding. That's excellent. Premier, I want to pivot to some other missions that the BDA has been working on over the past several months. Has everything to do with trying to attract capital and jobs to Bermuda. We've been part of 3 missions to New York City to meet with asset allocators, law firms, advisory firms, to talk about Bermuda's platform in this space. And I want to thank you and your cabinet for your support of those missions. What have you heard about the missions to New York so far?
I think what's the most important takeaway is that people know what Bermuda is and know what Bermuda represents, but they want to know more about how they can leverage or how Bermuda can leverage what it is that we're doing to make sure that we can excel in this space. And I think that it's vital and important. I know the Minister of Finance has joined the BDA on a number of those trips to make sure that we are in front of the decision makers. As these climate change goals are turned into reality, as laws change in whether it's the United States, Europe, or around the world, we want to make sure that we are adequately positioned to allow persons to meet the targets in a capital efficient way. We've always been a capital efficient jurisdiction. That's what we've been known for. And we believe that building on our reputation it will ideally place us in that mission. So what we've done in those trips are just raising the awareness, but we're going to continue there because climate is not an issue that is going away. Climate change is real, the climate risks are real, and we know that there's going to be more attention that is going to be focused on how our asset allocators making sure that the funds in which they're investing on behalf of their clients are being done in an environmentally responsible way. And that's what Bermuda has offered. And we've also done things from a regulatory perspective through the Bermuda Monetary Authority to make that even more important.
Premier Burt, this has been a fantastic conversation. I wish we had a lot more time, and I'm sure our audience does too. But I have time for just one more question. And so to bring us in for a landing, we're in the very early days of climate risk finance and what that might look like for the globe. To your mind, what does success look like in climate risk finance? And in particular, what does it look like for Bermuda?
Well, one of the things of being a leader of a country and setting out political goals and aspirations is oftentimes you don't get to see the results of your work. Sometimes, I've been in this job for almost 5 years, that you begin to see some of that. So when I came in 2017, one of the things I was pushing forward was financial technologies. We call it fintech. And now 5 years later, we're beginning to see more and more companies that are arriving on our shores that are taking advantage of the regulatory environment of which we offer and that regulatory certainty. When the insurance companies first set up in the 1960s, I'm sure, no one imagined that Bermuda would be the world's risk capital. But because of our hard work and our energy, we have gotten there. And so what does the future hold in success here is that we want people to know that Bermuda is the center for climate risk finance, and the future and the success looks like more companies, new companies and existing companies working together to build and develop in this space so that people will say, oh, I have a climate project that I need to finance. I need to make sure I do something inside of this that is environmentally responsible, that meets these goals. And there we'll think of top of mind that Bermuda is the place to do it. So we've been successful in history in that aspect. When people think of insurance, the first place they want to think of is Bermuda because we are so good at it. And I want us to be top of mind when it comes to thinking about how are we going to finance the technologies and the changes which are going to be necessary to ensure that our climate survives. Because for a small island state such as ourselves, it is vital. It is life and death for us, but it's life and death for so many other small island states and lots of coastal communities. So we want to be known as a place that not only you can raise that money, but a place where people can see how it works. And I think with the combination which we're doing with the Energy Regulatory Sandbox and the effort that we're putting into climate risk finance, I think that we'll be successful in those goals.
Premier Burt, thank you so much for taking time to be with us. Our pleasure to have you.
Thank you.